The Nation of Humanity, the 2015 update of the Metatronic message to the United Nations. Archangel Metatron channel via James Tiburon. Greetings! I am Metatron, Lord of Light, and I embrace you with love, unconditional love. And so this wonderful day we gather for a message to the nation of humanity and to the United Nations. We pause to fill this space, this timing, with the cosmic light of unconditional love. And we tell you, it is only unconditional love that will unite nations of your beloved Earth. We encircle each and every one of you with a nurturing energy and with the field of self-empowerment, for each of you are truly masters on your path of ascension. It is our purpose to offer you inspiration and clarity, but indeed it is once and always requisite that you, as a sacred and sovereign being, discern this and any such channeled messages. It is 2015, year 3 of the new Earth, and so we gently ask all of you to look at the world around you for just a moment. What do you see? Your media outlooks are reporting war, chaos, riots, disasters, and economic collapse. And what is broadcast is what is seen in 3D. It is oft full of gloom and doom, is it not? But we tell you, there is a new sun dawning, and it is indeed the sun of change. It brings the light of the magnificent new Earth. And dear ones, we do mean magnificent. And yes, we know that some of you are thinking, the angels are viewing the world in rose-colored glasses. Their perspective is a Pollyanna wash. Masters, the chaos on the planet at the present time, as dark as it may seem, is a purposed cleaning, and it will surface the remaining obstacles that must be cleared. The release of the darkness, of the negativity and areas of conflict is necessary, and these are surfacing now in order to be resolved. Some will doubt this truth, for there have always been the naysayers on the planet, those who predict gloom and doom and warnings of disaster and fear. And these serve a purpose in duality, and certainly a quick glance around the globe would seem to justify their stance. But we tell you, it is an old energy, and it is not the role of spirit to ever tell you to give up hope or to let go of your free will. Our message is to tell you of your divinity, and to tell you as a matter of fact, as a point of truth, that the planet and indeed humanity will ascend, and are absolutely on track for that to happen, period. Never forget that your 3D reality is a purposed dream, and humanity collectively hold the keys to create change, to co-create a world of love and peace, and we assure you that will happen. SEAT. Now, we will speak this day to the United Nations in the same vernacular that we speak to all seekers, to all aware audiences. We recognize those of you within the SEAT, the United Nations Society for Enlightenment and Transformation, as members of the transformational team. We know you very well, and we honor you for the roles you are playing in this organization. The beginning, not the end. It is 2015, year 3 of the new Earth, and so many are asking what really happened in 2012. The doomsday prophets were and remain in high gear on this topic, do they not? Some of your speculators are on particularly fertile ground in this arena, generating fear followings around global chaos, collisions of comets, asteroids, cataclysmic polar reversals, religious wars, and economic collapse. Certainly, when you look around the planet, there is unrest, there is inequality, and there are old tensions rising to the surface. And we tell you with certainty, this is a purposed time of clearing, an absolute requisite surfacing of unresolved energy that must be confronted to allow for the coming resolution. And dear ones, a resolution must be found. For one of the final pieces of the puzzle is now percolating, and that is the necessary harmony that must take place between the three religions of Abraham: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And we will speak more on this specific topic later in this message. Planetary shifts. Masters, in the new Earth, planetary changes will continue to occur, but they are appropriate. However, the global cataclysm that some seers have predicted did not take place and will not occur on any such global scale. Now, be aware, there will indeed be certain natural Earth changes, the cleansing of the planet, the upshifting of frequency, but it will be on a gradual basis, a regional level, and it is for the upshift, for the higher good. We assure you that were it not for the regional quakes, shakes, winds and waves, devastating as they are, then the larger one would inevitably have to take place. And that will not occur precisely because of the gradual shifting. It makes sense, does it not? The planet will ascend, and humanity will be in tow. In your higher consciousness, that level above fear, not only are you aware of this, you scripted it. And we say, well done. Letting go of old energy. Dear ones, we tell you again, the planetary ascension did occur, and humanity has made it so. And the ascension of humanity is on track. But it is time to let go of old energy, of fear. Such fear is deeply programmed, for these have been eras in the past on 5 occasions in which the world was rebooted through devastating global cataclysms, by axial tilts, magnetic reversals, and asteroids impact collision that resulted in the mass depopulation of the human species on the planet. And so these fears are deeply embedded in your cellular memories, a subconscious repeating recording. False dogma and control of unworthiness. So many of your religions are rife with embedding of fear-control dogma, warnings and restrictions, my way or no way constraints. They program you with erroneous concepts of original sin, poverty vows, and focus on what not to do. These fear-based controls have underpinnings of severe punishment for violators, creating group thought forms to entrap you, program fear, and thus cage you within false and quite detrimental dogmatic systems of belief. Such skewed control dogma encourages fanaticism and zealotry. It spawns self-righteousness and threats of retribution, our way or else. It's an old energy. It's fear, and fear spawns hatred. It is a low primal vibration, one of very low vibration. And masters, you can never return to states of lesser awareness. Life is an expansion. With the new earth comes the greater role in co-creation of the reality around you. But that is a responsibility that will unfold through love, not dread. While you are indeed accountable for your actions, that accountability is to self. You are a sovereign spark of the divine. greater access to creatorship. So what happened in 2012? The short answer is that greater access to your divine creativity occurred. The Earth amplified into 12 dimensions, and by having access to those crystalline fields, you employ greater ability to responsibly create. As you enter the ascension, the crystalline grid replaces the magnetic grid that has dominated Earth's ebb and flow for eons. As a result, third-dimensional polarity is optimally constricted within a more stabilized energy matrix. What does that mean, Metatron, you ask? It does not mean that the third dimension has disappeared, for it is in the duality realm that free choice lessening occurs in what we term the University of Earth. For Earth is your testing ground. The third dimension is required. You must master it, and as such, it is the springboard to higher dimension. What it means is that the arc swing of duality will gradually lessen in a gradual process. It will happen on time release, and it has already begun. That is precisely why the old energy holdouts are kicking hard. They are drawn out of the shadow into the crucible for all to see. As the light grows brighter, the bugs of negativity will be attracted to it, but events can no longer be skewed to hide the truth. Look at what is happening around you. Positive change is happening, and that involves a necessary clearing. All that cannot serve must surface, be faced, and resolved. And much more of this resolution is to come. That we assure you. In a true sense, the boil of negativity, the festered carbuncle of darkness is being lanced, and the poison is being released so that it may be cleansed. United Nations. And so we say to all of you gathered here, to all readers and listeners, that the enlightened among you and the members of the United Nations carry an important role, perhaps even more important than you realize. For you are the voice of those that cannot speak, and you have the collective ears of those that will listen. And many within the delegation will listen to you. So do not be discouraged, for we recognize your importance, even if others do not. We tell you that at any given time, half the world is in light, and half the world is in night. It is a world of polarity. We say to you that far more than half of humanity is in consciousness shadow, yet to awaken to the light of wisdom. We tell you that enlightenment occurs one heart at a time. But just as one candle can brighten a room, one enlightened soul can illuminate thousands. Therefore, the light bearers among you must never lose faith, must ever shine brightly, for even a small photon wave makes a transitional illumination. So it is, so it must be with you here today. First World Nations. Now, there are some that will say that the prominent nations of what you term the First World, the financially dominant and powerful, are more like corporations than countries. Corporations based on profits, whose residents are treated more as employees than citizens, especially within the so-called First World Nations. That the gap between the haves and have-nots is growing increasingly wider. There are some that would say that the overall masses of the United States are controlled and manipulated by media, intoxicated by quantity, and enslaved by debt. That sovereignty of the individual has been lost. Yet a light still shines, and it is growing brighter. New generations across the planet are coming into power, and they will quicken the change. This is happening globally. We tell you the time is nearing in which people will awaken to the knowledge that it is not their encumbering debt that ties them to their beliefs, rather their beliefs that shackle them to the burden of debt. The global economic system will change, but it will not freefall and crash irreparably in planetary chaos. To do so in utter chaos would not serve what is to come. Rather, it will be forced into change, drastic change, and positive elements will come forward to enable a better way. The new earth, the new humans, cannot and will not create its better future by simply discarding its past. The change will come by learning from the past and adjusting in the present, one step at a time. The new humans in the generations that are coming into power in the next decade will choose a new pattern as a work in progress, and that economic shift will occur. The power of love. Masters, we have said before and we say again, that when the love of power is replaced by the power of love, humanity will make a quantum leap. But know that love without strength is incomplete, is not integral love. So change is inevitable. It is the nature of reality, and is evolving into light. The changes the next 15 generations of humanity will make will create the flowering of the ascension. Falling tyranny and power gaps. Change is occurring all around you, and it is not hard to see. Look at what has happened and is happening even now in North Africa and the Middle East. What began as a revolt against the tyranny of the fanatical dictatorships and kingdoms has led to fallen governments. And in the vacuum of falling tyranny, there is the gap of power in which negativity can and will seek an opportunity. And masters, in 3D, the realm of duality, there are opposing forces. There is light and dark, and light attracts bugs. It has been said that the smartest thing the devil ever did was to convince humanity he did not exist. We assure you, there are no demons other than the ones you create, but the collective of human hate manifests into living conscious thought forms that are quite malicious, quite real. Zealotry in religious intolerance is a subtle form of fear control, and fear spawns overt hatred. Hate is a dark energy with far-reaching effects. Reformation requisites. All of the patriarchal religions born of Abraham are going through reformations, some more requisite and intense than others. But change must come and is coming sooner rather than later. Some of your current religious texts say that God is an angry God, a vengeful God, in skewed, misinterpreted texts written well over a millennia ago. We tell you that the supreme gestalt you term as God is not an angry God, is not a vengeful God. For ye are gods, and God is the collective of all that is, and God is love. Just as your World War II was a resurfacing of the unresolved Atlantean conflict between the Law of One and the Sons of Belial, your current chaos in the Middle East is a resurfacing of the unresolved conflicts of the Crusades, and this too must surface before it is resolved. And as horrific as all wars are, if resolution cannot be found by any other means, then sadly, it is the path of horror that surfaces and will eventually lead to resolution and reformation. But as one great soul has said, an eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind. Religions based in fear must also be reformed in time, and this will occur. It will happen in religion and in governments. And so we say to all governing bodies that unless change is brought from the top, it will be summoned from the bottom, and mightily so. The energy of the planet is changing, and the old guard of political power over love simply cannot stand in the new paradigm. Nations and corrupt ideologies that rule by brute force are falling, one tyrant, one corrupt government at a time. A new accounting. Governments must be of the people and by the people. Governments must care for the least of their populace and not be templates of power play for greed and cunning. Heart and love is the new energy. This is the new way, and this is the new accounting. Governmental leaders cannot sit on thrones and watch in aloof carelessness as their citizens struggle to survive. Nations of the first world are required to lift the third, but not by military means, not by corporate manipulation, rather through sharing, through understanding that a human life cannot be measured in gold or derogated into ineffectuality by lack of it. And what of the economy? Look at what has happened in the past 5 years. Dear ones, spirit is not short of cash. There is a means for all to have abundance. There is requisite for each soul to have the opportunity of life. And truth cannot be hidden. The shadow is being removed. Manipulation is manipulation, and corruption is corruption, even if it is for the short term, hidden in shadowed legalities and sham. The current economic system will morph into a different one in time. The middle path. The middle road between that termed capitalism and that termed socialism will in time be realized, and in time prove the more tenable way. Life is about gain, but gain is not always about monetary profit. Yet learning to create is part of your puzzle on the earth plane in duality, and you have and will in time experience every path along the road to the solution of sharing the planetary resources. War and conflict. As 2015 arrives, the majority of humanity is wary of war, but not enough yet are empowered to force their leaders to stop it. In days past, wars were formed in royal courts and political temples. In current times, wars are created in executive military corporate boardrooms and within fanatical streams of zealotry. The victims are but a brief mention in the evening news, alongside stock reports. Others sadly construed as martyrs. Rarely do countries decide in free majority will it go to war, but they blindly accept their leaders who declare them. If you were to open up the curtains of your hidden history, you would know that most of your planet's conflicts of war do not occur in happenstance. Rather, were all strategically chosen. There were no enemies to defend against. Rather, strategies designed to either fill coffers and bank accounts or to increase power reach by force. But this too will fail in time. War is an aspect of polarity that will only end as the earth and humanity rise above it. Hating war will never end war. Loving peace will end war by creating peace. Dear ones, so much is changing, and in the present it is difficult to see that a great cleansing is taking place. Even if such clearing involves the sad path of hatred, hatred does in time inevitably lead back to love. But it is the agonizing path, and yet this too will lead to the ascension of humanity, for such is the ultimate destiny of your planet. And so what was the 2012 ascension? What really happened in 2012? The planetary ascension. Dear ones, we told you several years ago that for most of the planet, December 21st, 2012 would come and go, and the world would say nothing has changed. Most of the planet held this belief and holds that conclusion. Some might say they were quite right, but we differ. If you are hearing these words in hopes that the final phrases of this discussion will weave a conclusion to your liking, you will not be disappointed. So we tell you, while the template of expansion occurred in 2012, the mass enlightenment of mankind will not follow for several centuries. 2012 simply provided you more tools to work with. But to be clear, much more work is required, and in 2015 and forward, you must actively be the change. And we remind you that we of the angelic realm are not here to solve your problems, rather to encourage you on your path to solution, rather to support you and assure you that you will in time resolve the issues that seem so perplexing. The conundrum will be surmounted, and although mankind will not reach a critical mass of enlightenment on the earth plane for several more centuries, it is important to remain present and positive, because it will occur one day at a time, one heart at a time. It starts with you and finishes with you. Your individual vibrations will either add to or subtract from the light. Each of you has an opportunity to be impeccable every day. The scenario in which you recognize your own failings, your own conflict with integrity, is the day you begin to encompass mastery, and indeed, it is a journey. Likewise, the day you stand in your truth with willingness to recognize another person's truth, you encompass integrity. This truth, then, applies to nations as well. It applies in macro and micro. Spirit speaks of love. Spirit does not attack. Every current religion on your earth has its truths and distortions. Discernment is the key. It is requisite of you to decide what is true and what is not, based on heart and not fear. No true sacred expression limits its truth, its beauty, to one grouping. No true form of spirituality endorses fear, hatred, or violence as a means of its growth. Dear ones, choose to live free. Choose to release worry and fear, and create your well-being. Respect and nurture one another, and embrace love. It is the science and frequency of God. It is the way that the nation of humanity will unite. I am Metatron, and I share with you these truths. You are beloved. And so it is. And it is so.